Hello and welcome to the class. My name's Laura Lewis. This is about body systems. Just make it full screen. Yep, make sure I'm screen sharing. Yep, everything's working. Okay, body systems. So let's look at the learning aims today. So looking at an overview of the systems that work together in a human. Number 2, the general explanations of the organs involved in the systems. And finally, a discussion of how these body systems interact with one another. Okay, so we've got levels of organisation in the body. So it's a bit of recap. So you've got cells. Okay, so there's other videos on cells. You've forgotten what they are. So it's the smallest living unit of any organism. So you have tissues, which we're going to talk about in more detail a bit later. So groups of cells are similar and work together to form a job, e.g. muscle tissue and heart tissue. Organs, so again, we'll talk about those a bit more later. Organs, different tissues that work together to perform a particular function. And an organ system, a group of organs that work together to do a job in the body. So that's our final aim, is to explain the organ system. Okay, so that's a good sort of slide to copy because these are good definitions I've written out here. Okay, so always to recap all these key words before we move on to anything else. Okay, so yeah, a bit more detail here. So tissues and organs. So if you think about cells and things, so cells can differentiate when you're forming, so as an embryo, to form specialized cells. Okay, so differentiate means that they make themselves different. Okay, so when you're sort of a bundle of cells forming as an embryo, that you start off obviously like one cell, don't you? It's called the fertilized egg, the zygote, that's actually called. And then the cells multiply and then they differentiate to form the different functions in the body because they need to all different jobs. Okay, so yeah, specialized cells, as their name suggests, are specialized to do a particular function in the body that they're working in. Think about all the different cells you have to have in your body, because not all the same, are they? If you look at your inside of your mouth, it looks different to your outside of your hand. Even they're specialized to do different jobs, and within your body as well, they all do different jobs. So we've got some examples here. So cells, yeah, so cells specialize to form a tissue. Okay, first before you form an organ, you need to form a tissue. So let's have a look at some of the tissues. Not like the thing you blow your nose with. I mean, same spelling, the same, but it means a specialized group of specialized cells is a tissue. Okay, so you've got a few here. Epithelial cells. I always like that. I always like the that word epithelial. Hard to say though. Tissue line structure in the body. Okay, so you've got things like the sort of skin, things made of epithelial cells. Muscle tissue, as it sounds, made up of fibers that contract. So muscle cells going to making up muscle tissue. Nervous tissue, so it consists of cell projections. So these are nerve cells. So again, if you want to look up cells, you need to go back to videos on cells with projections that transmit electrical signals, and I made one on cells. You have connective tissue, so you might not have heard of these ones before. So these connect up different things like the muscle to the bone. So loose connective tissue acts as padding under skin and elsewhere. So a lot of your body is really made of connective tissue. And if you ever eat, sounds a bit gruesome, but it's not okay. If you like, eat some chicken or something, you can kind of peel it away from the bone. You probably don't think of it too much. That's connective tissue. If you eat some chicken. Bone, so as it sounds, so yeah, the specialized cells and tissue to make up bone tissue. Even if you don't think about it that way, but bone's made of a tissue, so it's made of bone cells. Interesting. And cartilage. So cartilage differs from bone. So cartilage is kind of what your ears are made from, so it's stiffer than normal skin, and sort of the outside of your nose. Okay, sort of like the bit you can kind of move around. The cartilage. So it's not quite as stiff as bone. So and blood is a tissue as well. So it's actually made up of some connective tissue, but they're made of red blood cells, white blood cells, and again there's sort of other videos on blood and things like that. So this is just an overview, this video. So organs we move up to. So organs are collections of different tissues. So each tissue has a different role, but they all have the same end aim. Okay, so yeah, you've got levels. That's why I had the slide at the beginning. Okay, this is a good slide to refer back to. About you can get confusing. So you have cells, then you have a tissue, then you have an organ. Okay. Okay, so the cells are like tiny microscopic things. They form a tissue, and the tissue forms an organ. So you've got the pancreas as showing the tissue that makes the hormones. So the pancreas creates hormones in the body, okay, stained yellow, and the tissue that makes enzymes stained red. So you can have different tissues making up an organ, okay. So think about the heart, okay. So you have some muscle and some connective tissue making that up, and same sort of. You don't have to know too much detail, but you need to know what tissue is and an organ is made of tissues, okay. So you've got other types. You've got muscular tissue, body movement, okay, moves blood, food, waste, and body's organs. These are a bit more examples. Responsible for mechanical digestion. So you can see here that some of the tissues are found in different organs and even different organ systems as well. Okay, so something like that actually funny. I call it cardiac muscle there. So it's special muscle line in the heart wall. It's made of different types of muscle to your arms and legs and things, called involuntary muscle. There's these things that you don't need to know too much key stage 3 that are good to know. It's always good to know the cardiac muscle, I would think, because I think that's a good example. It's just called involuntary, so you don't need to think about, your brain doesn't have to get involved, luckily, to make your heart beat. Okay, so giving it a bit more examples of some muscles. Okay, we're going to move on to organs. Okay, so these are made up of different tissues. Okay, so again, this is good information to know. We don't need to know these things at key stage 3. The thing we need to know is what I've written here. I thought it was a very good diagram because it shows quite interesting things here. Okay, what each part of the brain does. Obviously, that's just interest. You won't need to get to know. I don't like to get a test on it in class or anything, but it's good to know these things to read through. Bit of interest. So, but you need to know this bit. So, the brain control center of the body. I think we all know it's very important. Controls thinking, obviously, and the other organs. So, even if some of the organs that you weren't even conscious of, you're controlling them, but the brain controls lots of things, okay, in the body. So you've got things like a occipital lobe. This controls bits of visual information. Okay, so it's interesting things that the brain does, but you just need to know this control center of the body and controls thinking and other organs. You're not really going to get very far with that brain. Okay, so that's why yeah, you can't, nothing can live without a brain. Okay, it needs that to control all its other organs. Okay, the heart, again, heart's actually quite a complicated thing. Okay, but the key thing to know is the heart pumps blood to the lungs and the body. Okay, so you've got a few things going on here. So the aorta here pumps blood to the body. The pulmonary artery, okay, is interesting artery actually, because most arteries carry oxygenated blood. So if you watch a video that I'm making on the circulatory system, it'll explain a bit more detail here, but I'm just kind of going over interesting parts. Okay, because doing general systems to get used to it. So the pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated. So the blue bits is where blood without oxygen, also known as deoxygenated blood, is carried. So the pulmonary artery carries blood to the lungs, and it's the only artery in the human body which carries deoxygenated blood. Okay, you got superior vena cava. Okay, so that's coming back from the body. So arteries pump blood away from the heart, okay, and veins bring them to the heart. But again, that'll be more detail in a different video. Circulatory system. So the pulmonary vein, so that's coming back from the lungs. So it's the only vein that carries oxygenated blood. Lots of interesting things going on in the heart. Okay, and yeah, it's made of 4 chambers. Our heart. Okay, so yeah, so this is when it says right and left, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, I'm looking at that's the right and that's the other way around. But it's like how it would be on the person. So if you were operating on a person, that would be their right side. Imagine like laying down and you're looking at them. That's the right side and that's the left side. Okay, right. So yeah, the main point here, above the heart pumps blood to lungs and the body, but lots of interesting things to do with the heart. Okay, so we've got the lungs. Okay, again, key point. The lungs take oxygen in from the air and transfer it to the blood. Okay, again, very important organ here, isn't it? The lungs also remove carbon dioxide from the body. Yet we don't need carbon dioxide; it gets breathed out. Okay, you can see the main parts here. So you've got windpipe, sort of stiffened, called a trachea. Okay, so I'm going to start to highlight the key points. Bronchus. Okay, so this is obviously behind your ribs. Okay, and these little air sacs, they're called air sacs or alveoli. It kind of sounds like pasta, but alveoli. Little air sacs where the air goes in, and there's little capillaries, so little blood vessels that flow around them, and the oxygen diffuses into your blood. Okay, and the carbon dioxide diffuses out. Okay, so these are called bronchioles. You may have heard some kind of bronchitis, you may have heard of, which is sort of an issue to do with the bronchioles here. Okay, the lungs. So the lungs are a funny thing actually. If you ever do dissection, when you hear the word lungs are spongy, they are spongy. Like they feel very very weird texture, a lung. Okay, so if you ever get to do a dissection in class, you'll find that out. Okay, the stomach. Okay, so stomach, it's quite a simple explanation of what it does. So it contains very strong hydrochloric acid. So you've got universal indicator, it would definitely be red, the stomach acid. Sometimes you experience that, don't you? If you have indigestion, it's the acid coming up, and it can actually burn your throat. And some people have disorders where stomach acid comes up and burns their throat a little bit. Yeah, it can be medicated, but say that it can cause problems actually in the body, like your own body causing it. But actually the acid's there to help break down food for digestion. Okay, so also it sort of churns around, so it mechanically breaks things down as well. But also the stomach acid is there to kill bacteria. Okay, so you don't want bacteria entering your body as well. So yeah, the stomach's kind of quite a simple job. It's not as complicated as the other organs, I would say. The intestines is a bit more complicated. Okay, so you've got two parts here. You've got the small intestine. It's called small because it's narrow, not because it's short. It's narrow. And you've got a large intestine, which is shorter, but it's wider. I know, it's a bit confusing. Okay, so intestines. So small intestine, the sort of very bright pink one, absorbs nutrients from the food, and the large intestine absorbs water. Okay, so it takes the water back. So it goes through the small intestine first, your food, and then it goes into the large intestine. Okay, so you absorb the water back. Okay, the liver. Okay, so it's kind of in two parts, the liver. Okay, the liver filters the blood and removes poisons from it. Yeah, if there's something on your liver, you can get blood poisoning. Okay, which is a serious condition. Needs to be sorted out. So liver filters blood and removes poisons from it. Very important. Interesting thing about liver though is that you can lose a lot of your liver and still survive because it can grow back. It's quite an interesting organ actually, the liver. So kind of looks a bit plain, but it's got a little interesting job. The gallbladder produces bile. Okay, you don't need to focus too much at this level on the gallbladder, but it's sitting there. So it produces bile. Okay, that mixes the digestive process. You can see it got links down here. It's quite interesting. What goes on with the liver, but you also can get liver transplants, and if someone gives a liver transplant, the person giving it, like the donor, doesn't actually die because they don't take all the liver. I think that's quite interesting about that. Okay, the kidneys. So when you get to GCSE level, you'll do a lot about kidneys. I always remember from me being at school talking about kidneys a lot. Again, they're quite complicated looking, but their job overall was fairly straightforward. So the kidneys filter blood and produce urine. So they've got another filtration system we have going there as well. Okay, so they've got huge renal arteries and veins going down. Okay, because they need to filter this blood for us. Okay, to make it, and they take out any excess water as well. It's put as urine. Okay, so the body gets rid of it. It doesn't need. So if you drink a lot of water, and your body doesn't need it, it just kind of gets filtered out again. So the kidney to say, don't need this. It just comes out, doesn't it? So it's sometimes more efficient. So on a hot day, okay, you need lots of water, and you probably the kidneys won't be taking as much water out because your body needs it as sweat. Okay, yeah, it's quite a clever system here. Everyone's body's got going on. The skin, often neglected as an organ, but it is an organ. Again, it's made of very specialized cells. So the skin protects the other organs. Okay, and it produces sweat and oils. Also contains hairs. Okay, so you've got different parts of the skin. Again, it's good to know. You don't need to know quite at this level. So people say about epidermis, that's the upper level of the skin, and you've got like the hair again. You've also got fat underlying. So everyone needs some fat to keep them warm. And we've got our connective tissue there. We've got quite a lot of tissues going on in the skin here. What do you think? We need hair as well to keep warm, keep air close to the body. So yeah, the skin is a very, very important organ, and sometimes people forget it's an actual organ. Okay, organ systems. Okay, so we get onto a system here. So it's the largest level organization. Okay, so we had cells, a tissue, an organ. No, we got an organ system. Yeah, that's why I had that slide, didn't I? Because it gets a little bit confusing. Okay, skeletal system. Okay, so we all know what the skeleton is, made of bones. Okay, I think it's probably one of my favourite systems. I think bones are very interesting. Provides structure to the body and protects internal organs. Yeah, we don't suddenly clicked our fingers and the skeleton was gone, just be like a lump of jelly on the floor. Now, some animals don't have a skeleton, do they? So some animals, like a jellyfish, don't have a skeleton. It's kind of blobby, but it lives in water and doesn't need one. Also, insects don't have a skeleton. We don't have an internal skeleton like we do. They have an external skeleton. So if you see like an ant, okay, or even bigger, like something called an arthropod, like a crab, it's got an external skeleton, okay, to it. We've got an internal one, okay. So muscular system, yeah, supports the body and allows it to move. Okay, again, we'd be like, everyone has some muscles. Okay, when people say, oh, I don't have muscles, you have to have some, otherwise you can't move. Okay, the muscles actually move the body. Okay, so digestive system, overall breaks down food and absorbs the nutrients. Respiratory system takes in oxygen and releases waste gases. So we've seen that a little bit. The nervous system we haven't seen yet. So control sensation, thought. So yeah, our brain's part of it. Movement and virtual other body activity. The nervous system is very important. I think I might have said that was my favourite. I'm sure this might be my favourite. The nervous system. I suppose you can't really have one without the other, can you? Really, or is this? So circulatory system. Again, fascinating one. Transports oxygen, nutrients, and other substances to cells and carries away wastes. Okay, so we're going to go into a bit more detail about each one here. The circulatory system we'll start off with. This includes the heart, arteries, and I should say veins. Sorry about that. So, and the veins. Okay, sorry, yeah, the veins. Yeah, the functions transport substances in the blood around the body. Okay, so it contains the veins. So when it says they're blue, it means they haven't got any oxygen in these. Arteries are red, and you've got the heart. So all the blood vessels and the heart is part of the circulatory system. The respiratory system, so you've got the nose, mouth, and lungs, kind of the smallest system in a way. Takes in oxygen and removes carbon dioxide from the lungs. So lungs are the main part of that, aren't they? Respiratory. Digestive system, so the mouth, esophagus, so where food goes down. Stomach and intestines. Okay, sometimes some people regard the liver and the pancreas, they don't get directly involved, okay, they produce enzymes. Okay, so there's another video on the digestive system I'm making. Okay, they're more involved in the enzymes. So it breaks down food and absorbs nutrients. So the food will only pass through your esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. Okay, so the other things produce enzymes. Okay, reproductive system. So in women includes uterus, fallopian tubes, ovaries, and the vagina. In men includes penis and testes. Systems are to produce offspring. Okay, so again, they're not needed for us to survive. Okay, this one, they're to produce offspring. Okay. So the nervous system I kind of think could be considered the most important. It kind of controls everything, doesn't it? Yeah. So, I mean, you can't say one again. You can kind of say some more important than others. I said that the reproductive, you don't need it to survive. Like you can have your reproductive system removed, and you will still survive. Okay, but you need your nervous system. You need your other ones. Okay, the nervous system is responsible for feeling stimuli and interacting with the environment. So you've got the two parts of this. You've got the central nervous system, so it's the brain and the spinal cord. And peripheral, so it means like the outside. So you've got nerves and you've got things called ganglions. I mean, you don't need to know that one, but you need to know the nerves. Interesting to know though. The nerves, the brain, the spinal cord. So they're part of the central nervous system. So it's that when you sort of feel things like, say you felt that hot, okay, on your hand, okay, then it would tell the spinal cord and it'll tell your brain to move it away. Okay, so again, I might have that plan to make a whole video on that. Okay, but in each one you can sort of tell that it will interact with the other one. So again, so digestive system, which system, let's go back to this one. So okay, so you can say that each one it will interact with the other ones. Okay, because your nervous system would respond to stimuli, and that could make your heart beat faster, for example. So, and when you eat some food, or again, nervous system is quite a central one here, isn't it? The nervous system tells a lot of the other systems what to do. Okay, so for example, when you're running, it will tell the respiratory system we need to take more oxygen in. Okay, and you can tell the muscular system you have to move something away from, say, for example, you touched a hot stove, it tells you to move your hand away. Okay, so the nervous system sits kind of at the center of everything and tells everything else what to do. Okay, but yeah, it's good to go back on these things, and then, as we said, one of the most important thing is the level of organization. Okay, so it was that kind of style. We just had text on it, but these are key words that I would copy down. Okay, so again, if you want to go over things, you can always pause in parts of the video. So yeah, I've written the key points, obviously not on the diagrams. That's the thing you really need to know, and more interest, obviously look at the diagram. Okay, this is a very good slide. Okay, that's what I'm going to end on, because it sort of shows you the general one, but obviously know the key words and you'll be fine, and you'll be prepared for GCSE as well, because this we're sort of starting to touch on GCSE level. So thank you for joining the class, and hope to see you in another one. Goodbye.